Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is July 19, 2023. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to return with the great Shep Stern, part two. How cool is that? Right here in Venice, California. Shep, I love you. You're the best.
You are.
That first part was so fun. We're going to jump into question number 14 on the survey charts. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're writing an original song, a Shep song, what role does intention play in your creative process?
It depends on what kind of song I'm writing. As a composer for hire, I was kind of a mercenary. I had the ability to summon a muse to write a melody and put lyrics to it. I could always do that. So it depends on what the gig is, determines if my message has to be clear or not, or if I can be, veiling it somewhat. If it's just a Shep song that I'm writing in a band with someone or by myself, then I can be I take as much poetic license as I want. But when I'm working for a client who needs a very clear message expressed in a scene, this has to move the action forward with it, or it's like a product that they're trying to sell and they have like 30 seconds to do it, and it has to be very clear. So
right,
it depends. That's just from my perspective of being a mercenary and working for all comers.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying when you're writing a song that isn't for hire, it's just Shep writing a Shep song. What role you said? What does poetic license mean? What is that intention sort of thing? I loved you saying you summon a muse. I mean, what is that sort of direction you take when you're just writing a song for Shep? What does intention play in that regard?
Well, the Shep songs come out of Shep like an idea.
Yeah.
And it appears in my brain somewhere as a melody and possibly sometimes just a catchphrase. So or just a musical phrase.
Yeah.
I'll hear something sometimes in nature, a bird call
Nice.
that'll knock me out, and I'll just go, whoa, let me get that. Let me jot that down. And I'm kind of old school in that way. I used to have one of these, moleskin writing books that had musical staffs in it. It was blank.
Yeah.
Like hundreds and hundreds of pages of just and it was little. It was like this big. I used to walk around with that and one of these Pentel pencils with endless lead, and you can just jot down little lines.
Yeah.
In New York on the way to a gig or something, sometimes I hadn't written anything that I liked. I had written like 3 or 4 things ready to play for somebody, but nothing that really knocked me out. And on the way, like in a cab or on a subway or something, on the way, it just happens. It just happens.
Yeah.
You just get it. So
I love
that's what I mean about the muse. It's like out there. You just got to be like a vessel, got to let it come in.
That's the bird call thing is Ben Sidran was interviewing Sun Ra and he said, "You worked with Fletcher Henderson. Did he influence you?" And he goes, "No, the birds and the crickets influenced me." And that's what Eric Dolphy right over here in East LA used to listen to the crickets. That's where he got his solos ideas from. But, Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. Again, not when you're writing a client piece. When you're writing a Shep song, what role does the audience play in your creative process? How much are you considering your potential listener?
Oh, I put like a long time ago, I realized I was making these what I would call movies for the blind.
Yeah.
You know, just close. You don't need your eyes for this. There's nothing
Yeah.
to see here, nothing to look at.
Yeah.
And then I would bring in all of the elements that I wanted. It could be spoken word, it could be silence. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it could be anything. And I always felt that it was I guess that came from that whole era that we spent like lying on the couch with headphones, you know,
Yeah.
listening to a new album, but on headphones
Yeah.
at night when everybody else was sleeping in the house or something. You know, at a certain point in my life, I had headphones. My dad, I think I mentioned in the last edition, my dad was like a recordist, an
Yeah.
amateur recordist, audio recordist. He's fabulous. He had some stuff.
Yeah. And so this is, you anticipate a lot of questions, but first, McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like the knife and fork extends your teeth, the shutter in a camera extends your eyelid, maybe even non-tangibles, say religion or philosophy extends consciousness. What does the ukulele extend for you? What humanness?
Well, ukulele is a primitive instrument. It was a leftover from the Spanish invasion of Hawaii, right? The Spanish cowboys left guitars, and the Hawaiians made ukulele, which is like jumping flea, means
Yeah.
jumping flea in Hawaiian. And it is um, a delivery mechanism for joy.
Yeah.
There's
That's
no
good.
other way to describe it. It's just four little strings.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do My Dog Has Fleas. You don't. You can be
Yeah.
like, you can make an open chord with it. And I know, and everybody always wanted to do that. And my first introduction to it was really like looking at somebody with a raccoon coat and a
Yeah.
hat, and he's, you know, boola 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 boola, you know, that kind of guy playing a ukuleles and raccoon coats.
Yeah.
But it was an easy instrument for a little kid to get his hand around. First of
Yeah.
all, I could play all four strings very easily. What is it? It is instantly irresistible to
Yeah.
most humans and some animals.
No, I like it because it also evokes Tiny Tim. When we're all rocking out, all of a sudden this guy starts singing this, Tin Pan Alley music, and it made an impression on us. He played Woodstock.
Well, Tiny Tim was a fixture of our 60s, you know, icons that we had around us. It wasn't so much about his ukulele playing. That was still raccoon coats and, you know, canoes on a lake at night. People were still boola boola-ing in those days too, a
Yeah.
little bit. You know, they had the 1910 Fruit Gum Company on the radio, you know, you know. So
Yeah. How about Winchester Cathedral?
right.
That's a
Winchester
great
Cathedral.
that's a great song.
Right. So, but Tiny Tim was like, yeah, he was playing a ukulele or ukulele, but he was playing it with the finger, like, you know, ding, ding, ding. He didn't really have much technique going there.
Yeah.
But there was this guy who had tons of technique in those days, Betty Boop days, you know, Max Fleischer days. And his name was Benny Nawahi.
Yeah.
And they called him King Benny. And man, this guy could play insanely jazzy licks on the ukulele. And I was introduced to him at a very early age. Again, my dad, the curator of sound from all over the world, was like just like in love with this guy's playing ukulele and his gang, because he saw them. I guess he saw them somewhere, maybe during World War II or something like that. but he was always enamored with King Benny and his, I forgot what the name of the band was, but he had like it's really cool. It's from like the 20s. It's cool stuff. Cool stuff. So, that came from something. So it's an accessibility. It's taking guitar, which is like, whoa, I don't know how, that's too many strings, and really simplifying it to like the 4 strings that you can pretty much get some good harms out, play some melodies and accompaniments maybe at the same time with very, very, minimal fingering. It's quite a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, Shep.
like a tenor guitar.
Yeah. Well, Shep, this is good because you mentioned too, you got ESP words I'm bringing up in the next question. Copeland said the 4 ingredients of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. So, first of all, what is tone color in layperson's terms, not in academic musical terms? How would you explain what is tone color to the normal person?
To the normal person, tone color would probably be the way a sound makes you feel.
Yeah.
It's your visceral body reaction to a sound. Like, oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Or like, fix that. Ooh.
Well, then how do you integrate the 4? Melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. I mean, is it just when you're writing a Shep song, not an assignment, not a commission, when you're writing a Shep song, is there a leaning towards one or the other? Because you mentioned melody and you mentioned harmony, but how do you approach that? Because, well, it's the funny thing about the Brill Building. They asked, what came first, the melody or the lyrics? And they said, the phone call.
Exactly. I mean,
But
that's
I'm
so
putting
great.
that aside, your assignments, just when you're writing Shep songs, how do you integrate the 4? What's the process, or
Okay, so here it is. The first thing that happens is the song pops out. It's a melody with some ideas for maybe chord arrangement. Okay. Okay, that's it. That's all that I get. If I'm sitting down at a piano, it's limited by what my hands can do on the piano, because my brain isn't like working like some composers who don't need an instrument. I actually need an instrument because I don't trust my brain.
Yeah.
And I don't trust my memory, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
I really have to check and look at either a fretboard or a keyboard to see what I'm talking about, what I'm thinking about, right? And then I listen to it and I see if that's good. And if not, I quickly make a quick adjustment somewhere, get it just right. Maybe the wording has to change a little bit. But the tone part, I leave to, some things are evident. They pop out and you go like, oh, that has to have an old timey feel, or that has to sound like, flock of seagulls, or that, something, you get like an idea from the first part, what the last part should be. And then many, many times I have deferred to much more talented and knowledgeable orchestrator arranger types of people who have a command of the full orchestra plus electronica plus found sound and cool stuff. I never try to be everything. I can't. I'm good at what I do, and everybody else is a little bit better at something else, or a lot better at me. I totally love collaborating and working with them about stuff like that. But that takes care of the tone. What instruments provide the sound that you're about to hear? And most of the time with me, Jerry, my sound isn't the final sound. So I don't really worry about that too much. The final sound is, going to have a bigger budget, and it's going to have, a lot of polish on it. But what I do in my home studio is very rough, very natural.
So you're saying maybe harmony and rhythm comes after melody and tone color. Is that what you're saying? or not necessarily?
No, not at all. The
Oh,
rhythm sometimes comes with the melody and or the lyric.
I
The
see.
rhythm, the rhythm to me is, sometimes I'm thinking of one to match a rhythm that I have in my head. And sometimes I'm matching a rhythm to a word passage that I have in my head. And what I'm there's so many ways to do it.
Yeah,
there's only those 7 notes and all the little spaces between them, but you got to do everything, and it's all got to be new, and it's all got to help, and it's got to work, and everybody's got to like it, and then
yeah,
it goes. Otherwise, it's just I have a whole bunch of songs, as we started to talk about, that no one's ever heard.
yeah.
No one. They were written for something, and it never happened, or it happened, but this song didn't make it into it. And I have a whole bunch of those. So it's not like everything I hit is out of the park by a
Yeah,
long shot. I have a lot of stuff
yeah.
left over from my my
Well,
past.
that's Warhol. Warhol said, "Don't worry about what people think of your art. Just keep making it." So,
Well, yeah.
so then there's the three T's of music: technique, theory, and taste. You can learn the technique, you can learn the structure, the chords, the theory. Then how does one acquire taste?
Taste according to whom? It's
That's
like I
good. You're
say.
answering a question with a question. You win, Shep. That's what this
Well,
is
oh,
about.
thank you. I'll leave it at that. I mean,
But you gravitate towards people. You like Phil Oakes and you like Dylan.
I like so many people. If I gravitated towards the kinds of people that like the people that I like, I'd know everybody on the planet. I mean, I love I love music that makes me, like Little Richard used to say, make my big toe shoot up in my boot.
Inside my boot, my favorite line from the film budget. Well, then here's the McLuhan line. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment on that?
I don't know if like King Crimson's track Cat Food is slowed down speech, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
But I get what he's saying. I
yeah.
get what he's saying about that. What was it? And help me out with the other
But
part.
yeah, the other part, that's good because usually people don't address the first part because there's two parts. And I love cat food again. But the second part is the reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. So, gamelan music is different. Some you say some Americans can't maybe not take it, or tuba throat singers, but for some reason Brazilian music became a hit in America. But is it connected to language difference? That's what he's saying, that these musical tastes are connected to language difference. And I'm not sure that's true or not. I'm not saying it is. I'm just wondering what you think about that idea.
I think Peter Gabriel is a shining, and any artist who produces the same album in multiple languages proves that that's not really true.
Right. You mean he sings the songs in different languages and releases them? Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they're successful.
That
And
is a good point. Yeah.
you know, so there's that. However, certain languages have a certain rhythm to them that other languages don't.
Yeah.
And so, and then other cultures are really emulating other cultures in terms of, music is something that travels around the planet before there was, social uh, networks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Music traveled around the planet. It was, like like word of mouth traveled around the planet. Music did the same thing. So there's a lot of influences of different culture into many different other cultures, and you have a mix of things. I'd say the scansion and the meaning of the lyric is all important to the listener in that language that they like listening in. I mean, I've heard songs in other languages and just adore them. Dominique, we, you know, we grew up.
That's another great song I love. We didn't know what she was singing, but this is funny. What you just said, Shep, is they asked James Brown, "Where'd you get your sound?" He said, "Africa." And they asked King Sunny Ade, "Where'd you get your sound?" He said, "James Brown."
That's
but
excellent.
what's more fundamental, language or music?
What's more fun than what?
What's more fundamental?
Oh, fundamental.
Yeah.
See, I'm thinking which one was more fun, language or music? Which was more fundamental, language or music? Fundamental means like base, you know, like, you know, if you can build a foundation on it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think music evolved separately from language, and language was incorporated into music later. Someone discovered they could go like, you know, Deo or something like that with the music.
Yeah.
Because up until then, they were just screaming at each other. Then they started screaming and playing music around the campfires. And the next thing you know, rock was born.
Yeah. Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
Igor's Boogie, Phase 1.
How cool.
Makes me laugh every time.
That's good. Isn't it funny? How could a song make someone laugh? Isn't laughter engaged in? Anyways, it's
well.
Like,
wait a minute. I have a personal pet peeve, and that's when a piece of music, a composition, is not always. It's not a song until it has words. Right there, we go. There's the connection. Words make it a song because it can be. But a melody can be sung with solfeggio or just la la la, fa la la. You know, here I am, another conundrum.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. A great Venice artist, Duggo, said Charlie Parker, no, I mean Thelonious Monk, who he plays instrumentals that make me laugh. He says Thelonious Monk heard all the notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them. So, you know, Monk has this idea that silence is the loudest sound in the universe. How do you incorporate silence or this sensibility of when not to play?
For me, it was easy when I'm in a, you know, percussion ensemble with like Ralph McDonald to my right and, you know, Jimmy Malin to my left. I'm going to be quiet for a minute and see what they're doing first. Right. Yeah. I'm going to listen. Then in terms of composition or arrangement, even, because, you know, now it's a big deal to have something drop out. Like, ooh, who invented dropping out? You know, like you take this, you pull this out of the mix suddenly, and it's not there anymore. So people make those decisions arbitrarily, starting with the composer. And from then on there, it's like, just where do you want it? I mean, silence is easy for anybody to make. Maybe not so many people. Some people it's not too easy, but it's you don't have to practice too much.
Yeah. It's funny because Miles talked about that space between notes, and George Clinton said funk is the absence of. So it's like that not overplaying. It just seems as though, you know, we went from the meters, which has so much space and breathing room, to just too much shredding and too many notes.
Well, some people get paid by the notes. You can't blame them.
Yeah.
The beauty of growing up when I did around the kids I grew up was
Yeah.
that I was exposed to a lot of great, legit classical, new avant-garde music that, like, Frank was like pushing towards, but these guys were just doing it somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow they were making a living making, like John Cage.
Right.
He was welcome to make a piece of music with no sound in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I would have a hard time getting that published, but he managed to, it's a the whole thing, Jer, to me is it's a listener's arbitrary decision that they make. Some
Yeah.
people, the auditory, the canals going into your head. Everybody is different. I've learned that from my earliest days in mixing sessions. It's like everybody hears everything differently.
Yeah.
It's very arbitrary. Everybody's completely different. So, you do what works for you.
Yeah.
I'll be quiet here. I want silence here because it emphasizes what's coming next, or it makes me think about what just came. It can be used very dramatically. It can be just used as a space so the sound stops and starts again, like what the wonderful Robert Fripp used to do with an on-off pedal. You
Yeah.
just stomp on it, and he would make blip, 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 blip.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to understand listening in silence. Well put, Shep. So, you've also been involved in performance when you perform in someone. And Ruth Draper says is the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. That sounds really good, but how does one do that?
You can't prepare for it. It's an amazing thing. It's just and it doesn't always happen. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean because you have an audience in front of you, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But when it does, I really can't explain how or why, but
Yeah.
I know I've been there, and it is, you want to, you chase it. You want it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And imagine all these people who get out there with, like, filling up, 20,000 seat places, and the audience is singing it back to them.
Yeah.
Must be sensational feeling. See, that's
Yeah.
the thing. My songs, nobody sings back to me because, they're silly.
Well, that's like George Clinton. He holds the microphone. He's got 30 singers on stage and he holds the microphone to the audience and they sing the whole concert.
I see that happening more and more. I mean, it's easy
Yeah.
for the artist.
Yeah.
I
But,
think I'll take a break.
yeah. But here's Leonard Cohen on the same topic. The only way you can sell a concert is to put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play for you?
I have nothing to risk right now. It doesn't matter what people think of me anymore. I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm like at that point where it's like,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a tremendously freeing place to be.
Yeah.
It's not because I've made enough money. It's just because it's me, I'm not shaking my butt anymore for, like,
Yeah.
it's it's not that important. It's
Yeah.
not that important. I mean, I'll get out there and I'm gonna set an evening up at some point, and I'm just gonna play a bunch of things that I think people will like that maybe they've never heard before, and
Yeah.
just by myself, nothing fancy yet,
Yeah.
but but phew, that's art, man. You just paint it and you show it to people, and who cares what they say?
Yeah.
You did the thing.
Yeah.
The fine artist, the painter, is the most visceral of all of us, because they're like, it's, you're getting, you're really pushing it into the canvas, or the whatever medium you're working with. You're shooting, Jackson Pollock shooting color at
Right.
things. You know.
Yeah, Captain Beefheart has that song, Run, Paint, Run. That's like he's pushing. But Viola Spolin, amazing woman in Chicago. She invented, or she started comedy improv, but she was a social worker using these role-playing exercise, and it spawned Second City and Saturday Night Live. And her line is, if the audience cannot see your struggle to achieve something, they cannot root for you to achieve it. What role does struggle play in your creative process?
Well, you want people to like what you're doing, hopefully, or not necessarily like it, like, but to appreciate what you're doing. And often the stuff that I'm working on, I know is going to not be heard by a lot of adults sometimes. It's like, for some children's product or program or something. And so, they don't have to see me struggle. In fact, I prefer that they don't. Really, by the time I'm showing it to somebody, I would have rehearsed it and nursed it and made it as good as it's going to be coming from me.
Yeah.
And I may be past that point in my ability. I mean, my guitar playing, for example, I've had to readjust 5 or 6 times in my lifetime due to, other lifestyle habits,
Yeah.
and just things that befall you, cuts and disease and whatever. So, the human experience is malleable, and I guess to some it would be interesting to watch you suffer, to pull you out of, have the audience pull you out of it. We've all had bad moments. I remember I was playing for you one night and I couldn't remember anything about the song. I'm
Yeah.
standing there, I'm ready to go, and I'm rehearsed, and it's, I'm ready. I know it.
Yeah.
I've known it. I've listened to it for 50 years. Of course I know it. And then I can't even think of what I'm doing. I mean, that
Yeah.
kind of shit just happens to people.
Yeah.
And I think the audience, was like, okay, let's help them, because it was, it's kind of an intimate
No,
gathering.
it was very special, and it's more a good memory than anything. But this is like Moshe Feldenkrais said. Um, he works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength. I mean, this is aside from music, just your entire life. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Um, I think I I think living a life up to a certain point where you're just pushing through it. You're not
Yeah.
sailing through it, not to make it sound like it's easy, but you're just moving forward because you have your whole life ahead of you, and you're young and you're moving forward.
Yeah.
And then you you know you're not necessarily interested in sharing what you know with anybody, because you don't feel you're good enough. What you've experienced isn't what, you're still gleaning things from people that
Yeah.
you're working with or something.
Yeah.
And then you hit this point, or something happens, something fateful happened to me, where I became a mathematics teacher. Mathematics.
Yeah.
And you could have knocked me over with a feather.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do math, but I've never been in front of a classroom.
Yeah.
But I've been in leadership situations. I've run music sessions, and I've run programs, and I've run, productions and this and that. So I have certain, um, I'm comfortable in front of a room. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way, But to teach a subject that's as dry, or I thought it might be dry, until I used my creative side to make it more interesting. And I had my students write a musical about mathematics, and we performed it, and it was, things happen.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know I could do that. I kind of did, but I didn't know I could do it anymore. I didn't know I would be able to do it anymore. I knew
Yeah.
when I was very young, I needed to make money, so I would write these musical plays that we could take around from one schoolyard to another and empty the truck out and build a stage, and everybody would come out and perform, and it was free to the neighborhood. So everybody would bring their beach chairs and sit on the asphalt on the playground or wherever we were, the big field, and just do that. So it was akin to that feeling of like performing for free.
Yeah.
Teaching.
Well, that's the turning a breakdown into a breakthrough, or a rejection into a redirection. That was good. And just one more question on music, and then we'll go into the education thing. That was really good transition. Is Ben Ratliff is a music writer, and he says, I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players, as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note. So me and you can hear Miles and we'll go, that's Miles. And he would say, well, he's fragile and pointed. And Ben said, oh, that's Coltrane. He's slightly undercooked and urgent. If a writer that you really respected was going to describe Shep's sound, what two words would you say they got it?
What, two words?
Yeah.
What sound?
Yeah, the Shep sound. What two words would you go? Oh, that person got my sound,
I don't, the thing about me, Jerry, honestly, is as a composer for hire, I never thought of myself as having a sound.
Yeah.
Everything that I did was to serve the song or the piece of
Yeah.
music that it was. So, at a certain point in my career, my demo reel was so varied that people couldn't get who I was. Like, you did that, and you did that, and you did that, and you did that. Yeah, doesn't it
Yeah.
sound professional though? Just put it there. Doesn't it sound well recorded? And you've heard it a lot, so it was pretty cool. But I don't have a sound. I mean, I really don't. I guess my songs, when people hear my songs and they hear other people's songs that sound kind of like that, it's usually because they're funny or really stupid songs, because I do a lot of that.
Yeah.
I wrote a lot of music for children, which was zany.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of music for television, which was like, chases. It's not at all the same. It's all different. It's all different. Then when I was in, writing music for a musical, a theatrical piece, there was a storyline that I had to follow. I'm pretty much a composer for hire guy.
Yeah.
I work with people.
I would say funny and zany and are two good words to describe your sound. That's in witty. Yeah, it's funny and zany and witty. But it's
I need a xylophone. I need a xylophone or a marimba.
That's Khalil. That's a great instrument. It's a beautiful instrument. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And my music makes it so silly sounding, but fun.
Yeah.
I know. I love that instrument.
Yeah.
It was always on anything I would write. It would be like, have like xylophone. And I may have gotten that from Zappa. I may have gotten that from Frank, because, always hearing a percussion, a mallet percussion instrument playing along with whatever else was ripping through some melodic burst of of intelligence was just wonderful, and I loved it.
Yeah, the Chinese sound that Oscar Hammerstein had a big influence on Frank too, with a lot of those funny little marimba type notes. And then the other one is Spike Jones.
Oh
They
my God,
they
Spike
both
Jones,
they
great.
both had a big influence on Frank too. And I agree with you. That's an amazing, zany, funny sound that keeps it fresh and bubbly. Yeah.
Yeah, it really just it helps everything. You know, when you think about like action movies, like a James Bond movie, there's always a xylophone hitting, you know, da 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 da. You know, it's like hitting these little sharp little staccato little clicks.
Yeah.
Ding ding. Very excellent instrument and very primitive.
Yes. No electricity. I have one of those like marimbas that they sell to children, and it's really made out of wood, and it's like you can hit anything on it and it sounds like you know what you're doing.
It's wonder. My brother-in-law used to make these wood slit drums called Docabellas.
Yes, that's
The
similar to that. I love those.
kind Bill Bruford used to play,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's just tremendous. We used to rail those things were like, you know, we'd sit there at Lincoln Center at these craft shows and we just blast through it for like hours, man, playing those things. They were great.
It has a reflection when the instrument's so innocent, it doesn't matter who's playing it or what they're playing. It sounds great.
It's a great thing. You know, like under my thumb, the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
I mean, it just pops everything out. It just makes
Yeah.
it all like, yeah, I got to get that. Yeah, I want to talk to Khalil. He's great. He's
Yeah.
great.
Well, humor is such an amazing thing. You know, just saying the word funny. What is the function of laughter?
I think it's a release, a natural form of release. So many different kinds of animals, species laugh,
Yeah.
really laugh. Um, um, it's got to be one of those, you know, universal emotions. Maybe everything finds something funny.
Yeah. Well, Steve Allen McLuhan loved to quote his line, behind every joke, there's a grievance. I don't know about every, but what's your thought on that? Behind jokes, there's a grievance.
So the self-deprecating humor
Yeah.
has a lot of that's in it.
Yeah.
And self-deprecating humor came about because, you know, either you want people to say no, or or you want people to think you're okay with yourself, or you're so comfortable with yourself you can talk about this,
Yeah.
right? But laughter itself, it just, people find the strangest things funny, and the funniest things unfunny sometimes. So I think whenever you laugh, be happy that you're doing something that you never do when you're doing anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like one of those things. It's like laughter, farting, sneezing, laughing, crying. You get into it. You don't even have to be emotional. Some people just cry when they're happy. Oh, isn't that wonderful? I'm so happy for you. I'm so
Yeah.
sad. It's the same reaction.
Yeah. It's amazing because you're getting toxins out of your body when you cry. My mom taught me that. You know, it's an emotional release, but it's also
Good for you. It's all good for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good for you. But
Laugh
you
it up.
know, I asked my friend who wrote comedy with Robin Williams, can satire be destructive? And he said, that's the job of satire. But if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country and they kill us, some people think dying's destructive. But, you know, Jonathan Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. And, you know, Zappa's saying so well, watch the Nazis run your town. Now go home and check yourself. You think we're singing about somebody else. So, you know, talk about the satire in this realm of being funny. can satire be destructive? And is that the job of satire? And what is the function of satire in general? Yeah.
Well, as much as we've just said that laughter is some kind of a release,
Yeah.
there's the release factor involved with satire of a big laugh somewhere when they get it. And at the same time, if they agree or if they disagree with the satire, there's that kind of reaction. Like, yes, he's an asshole. Oh my God, his impersonation is so good. Or, I love that guy. That is so mean.
Yeah.
So, working with some friends that to recreate a satire, very old one, like from 406 BC, and
Yeah.
we're gonna perform it at Beyond Baroque,
Yeah.
and it is incredibly relevant. 406 BC, and it's look at it right now. I mean, like there's a line from the play. It's in Greek, but the translation is, "What do you mean? Listen to what our leaders are saying. Have you heard what our leaders have been saying?"
Yeah.
There's that, and that was so long ago. And please, nothing has changed, has it?
Yeah.
So satire. There's an element of like, yeah, I'm on your team or I'm on the other team. There's a belonging and outrage. But what's its purpose? Its purpose is to point out in a fun way that we all think something sucks, or some of us think something sucks.
Yeah. It reminds me of that skit in Spike Jones on YouTube where he has two cave guys sitting there banging rocks together, and then he tells the history of music, and he says, and now Spike Jones has taken music back to the Stone Age, and the two guys are still banging on the two rocks.
I have quite a collection of Spike Jones, because to me that was crazy fun.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, when like I say, my dad had these great sound collections.
Yeah.
And Spike Jones and his City Slickers, or whatever they were called.
That's it.
Right? They were a very big part of my childhood, shooting off guns in the middle of the song and whatnot, and carrying on like lunatic. Yeah, all the weird little sounds that made me who I am. When I made my records for the Walt Disney Company, a lot of the things I produced for them wound up on these read-along books. So you'd get a book for the child, and with the book came a cassette.
Yeah.
There were cassettes in those days. And the cassette would be somebody reading the book, and at the end there would be a little song about whatever happened in the book. And I would write these little songs for the end of the cassette.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't ask anybody to do it. They didn't have any money to pay anybody.
Yeah.
But I would use like lots and lots of sound effects to fill out the production, because the budgets were so small. So like, it was like just like, big zipper, zip. That would be when Grandma came out of the wolf in the Little Red Riding Hood story. We'll just unzip the wolf, zip, and Grandma, out came Grandma, and a little, weird stuff like that. But again, cartoons for the blind.
Yeah.
That's what I was making for kids. Just listen to this and go. I listened to Danny Kaye as a kid. I listened to wonderful, wonderful renditions of Peter and the Wolf when I was a kid. Yes. Sterling Holloway for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good.
So when I came out to California, I said, I'm going to go work at Disney, and I got to get some Disney going on. And that was a trip, because I got to like be Shep at Disney, which was fun.
Yeah. That's a beautiful career you've had, and you've really done it. And Shep, it's funny because this slew of satire has leaked into the news, and we could just sort of ooze into politics a little in activism because we grew up with Man Magazine. That was the week that was Harry Shearer, and this was all called satire news. And now satire news has changed, and they call it fake news. So there's this hard uh, change in wording that confuses people because you got Jon Stewart and Colbert being the dominant force for a lot of people to get their news. We were having satire and also listening to Walter Cronkite, but now kids tend to only get their news from satire news, say Colbert or Jon Stewart or whoever. Do you think this is more activating them or more pacifying them?
The whole phone R2D2 thing is definitely pacifying people.
Yeah.
No, no, young and old. It's not
Yeah.
just kids. It's everybody. And you know, if and there's no, the genie's out of the bottle. I don't see any going back. It's probably going to even get worse with AI, where, like, it's not even you and me, because I'm busy. So I'll just put my avatar up here, and it'll kind of answer the way Shep would answer.
Yeah.
And it'll be okay for your listeners because it'll be close enough to Shep. Not that Shep has anything that important to add to anything anyway.
Now you have a lot of important, and I know it's the real Shep because you can't fool me, Mister Avatar.
Okay, all right. I'll
you
give
can't you can't fool Venetians.
that's
We're
for sure.
we're funny,
That is
but
for sure.
yeah, but it is funny what you're saying. I mean, it's important because another political activist we're fond of is Utah Phillips, and he said anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Well, rules are meant to be broken, right? We've all heard that
Yeah.
before. So again, the thing we're missing in society worldwide is critical thinking.
Yeah.
And with critical thinking skills, which have to be built, you're not, some people, I guess, are born or they become street smart or something like that. But critical thinking skills determine how well you're going to navigate this sea of madness that's coming.
Yeah.
And, when some demagogue says they love the poorly educated, you have to listen, because poorly educated doesn't mean you don't want to learn. It means whoever was teaching you poorly. It's not like you didn't try. You kind of aged out of it, though. I try to tell people life learning is very important.
Yes.
Never stop.
Yeah.
But so many people just move on into life with their limited ability to discern what's good or bad, or right or wrong. The very, very basic things, like in the 10 Commandments, they can't figure out.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it's all going, but this business of being on your phones or having the world at your fingertips through your phone, so you can easily Google or research anything, it's it takes a lot out of life. It really does. If I think about how much fun it was to go to a library,
Yeah, exactly.
and how to flip, and how many things that would show up that I would never dream of, that would just intrigue me. Or there would be, like, a friend over there, and we could go compare notes or blah, blah, blah. And then the library became, free search engine.
I
So
go to the library every day, man. It's my home base. It is the most important thing I do daily is the Marina Del Rey Library. But this begs the critical thinking stress was really good, Shep, because it begs. This is T.S. Eliot saying freedom is only truly freedom when it appears against the background of an artificial limitation, which caused McLuhan to say, how are you to argue with people who insist on sticking their heads into the invisible teeth of technology, calling the whole thing freedom? That was McLuhan nailing what you just said about cell phones right there. So what does freedom mean to you now?
freedom, like as in free will.
Yeah.
That's what it means to me.
Yeah.
You are a sentient being, hopefully, and you can make your own choices in this world, but don't make anybody else accountable.
Yeah.
You take your own shit,
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I got for anybody, because you're so much potential, and that goes both ways.
Yeah.
Every human being has so much potential. We have a saying that the loss of a single human life is like the loss of an entire universe. And
Yeah.
I get it, an entire world,
Yeah.
and I get it, because when we lose one of our great humans, let's say, where does all that talent go?
Yeah.
All that acquired ability, all that lovely grasp of how to delight us over and over again, and the technical ability to keep it up for so long so that you became a superstar. You know, what is tone?
Yeah. It's that consistent hearing, that reverberation of that human's effect on us forever and ever. It's like you don't let go of it, and you nourish it, and it's like fertilizer. But this is what you're anticipating so many questions, Shep. This is what's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Okay, let's look at the elephant in the room. You have the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
You don't have the right to shoot me
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
You don't have the right to take another person's life. You have the right to stand your ground, maybe sometimes where you are. So in some situation, if you're carrying a weapon, look, the whole thing with guns is just, I can't even discuss it, because the whole idea of a gun I can't even discuss.
Yeah.
It's an amazing invention. Jared Diamond,
Yeah.
was in his title. The title of his big book, Guns, Germs, and it's first guns, then germs, and then steel.
Yeah.
I mean, so a right to bear arms. Yeah, if we're being invaded by some country or some alien force, and we all want to go to, the shed and get out, old Ironsides and start, shooting the heads off of these benevolent creatures from another planet. I guess that goes back to, hoping people have critical thinking skills.
Yes.
Do I really need to pull the trigger, or just brandishing this weapon might work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Robin Williams said we should fight wars with rubber chickens, and you yell at the other person, your mama wears army boots, and you throw a rubber chicken at them instead of shooting them. But then what's the difference between rebellion and revolution?
Well, a rebellion is something that, gets up. It's when one group is in opposition to another, or was once within, was from within, like they were a part of a group, and then there's an opposition to that group from a party within the group. That's a rebellion. A revolution is like a revolution. It's a turnaround. It's the wheel comes, full circle. It's a revolution. Something changes.
Yeah.
And then we're back to something.
A re-evolution. Really good, Shep, because there's a socialist who said, where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. Where the government fears the people, you have liberty. And in 2005, V for Vendetta, the film paraphrased it. People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. How do you personally handle false fears? Like the war on drugs. You can't have a war on drugs because drugs don't fight, and you can't say no to drugs because drugs don't talk. So there's these false fears that come up, like the war on drugs, the war on poverty, the war on terrorism. How do you personally handle these false fears?
Again, with critical thinking skills. The false fears stem from a larger picture. The war on drugs, because some drugs kill people.
Yeah.
Whatever the slogan is, there's usually something behind it. That you are really trying to deal with, but you can't, because you have to dumb it down for the masses to get involved where the real power is. Right now, we have a government that fears its people.
Yeah.
And look what this is like. We can't get anything. I mean, we're getting stuff done, but we can't get anything. We can't get away from the bullshit. The bullshit's like flowing like wild in government. Maybe it always was, but somehow it had more dignity.
Yeah.
It's so undignified. It's so again, bunch of people who have no critical thinking skills, so they can start talking about, not to become political or anything, but like these false equivalents that are constantly barraging us in the news. It's just and one side or the other side doesn't even see the role they play in it. Both sides don't see the roles they play in these things.
Yeah.
One side by not choosing its words properly, and the other side by being, afraid that they're something, right?
Yeah.
So they're afraid they probably won't get reelected, because to them, governing is just being a big mouth and making all these false equivalents.
Yeah.
I mean, to them, that's an easy job and a lot of money to be made doing that stuff. A lot of money to be taken under the table, around the corner. And there are people in government that are absolutely honorable and wonderful and really, really in touch with the fact that they're doing service. And a very small group is on both sides. I sound like Donald Trump. I don't mean to, but truly the hard right and the hard left both need to like chill a little bit. We need to a little, right? I mean, just a little.
Yeah. Ian, you nailed it, because Frank said, talked about not a war on drugs, but a war on hopelessness. Why do people take drugs? So what's more important, Shep, conviction or compromise?
Today I'm going to say compromise, because look where conviction has gotten us.
Dude, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right.
Thank you.
And you've accomplished a lot. How do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Well, you mentioned the Brill Building before.
Yeah.
I was kind of naive. I thought the Brill Building was like mythical.
Yeah.
However, I blindly walked into 1650 Broadway one day, which was the other Brill Building, the one where Carole King and Jerry Goffin were.
Yes.
So in those days, uh, you could, go to the top floor and work your way down.
Yeah.
So luck didn't really play into that. You smart, critical thinking. Once again,
Did. Yeah.
you know, luck doesn't really play into that. Then when the door opens and somebody says, "All right, kid, perform," you have to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
You can't goof around. I mean,
Yep.
people who are musicians can tell right away if you don't have it, and if you're not, if this is not going to be a beneficial situation. And then, um, what was the third thing?
Luck, skill, and ambition.
Ambition at first. Ambition is something that never leaves you. As an artist, especially, you really do aspire to getting this next piece out there for people.
Yeah.
Unless you're like me, which is like, let me see if I can still get some of my old stuff out there.
Yeah.
But you know, ambition, you have to want to do something to
Yeah.
get started in the first place. So all three play an important part, but you make your own luck. I have to say,
Yeah. That's
you got to make your own luck in this
that's
world.
Gary Player said the more you practice, the luckier you get.
There you are.
Yeah. And so you where was I?
So is he
What's
saying that,
the
like, golf? There's a lot of luck in golf.
yeah.
You just got
Well, he was no,
lucky
he was
shot.
saying no, he was saying it's just like you. If you're dedicated to your art form, you're going to get lucky. Yeah, and it's how it's the use of the words. The whole dialogue we have here is it's me and you versus the wording. It's like this one. What was the motive of the cave artist? What do you think their motive was?
A flat wall. I can make that picture here.
Yes.
Plus, since I'm spitting the paint on my hand, maybe it won't get into anybody's face if I'm spitting it at a wall.
Yeah. That's good. And a
Wait a minute.
poet,
I have to tell you, man.
please.
A long time ago, I was making a tribute album to Gumby.
Oh yeah, I know that album.
Okay. It wound up being called the Green Album, but before and kind of being like a satire or parody of the Beatles' White Album. It was
Yeah.
lost Gumby on it. It was all green. But prior to that, which is when I threw my hands up in the air and I just said, okay, let's do it this. How about this? And then I came up with the Green Album parody thing. But before that, it was Gumby BC,
Yeah.
before Clay.
Yeah.
And what the concept was to have Gumby chasing a herd of prehistoric horses, and one of the horses is Pokey, and it's on a cave in the Lascaux region of France.
Oh my god.
So this artist that the really, really cool creative services department that was led by an amazing cat, God rest his soul, named Carson Van Osten, who you
Yeah.
might remember as the bassist of the Nas.
Oh, nice.
So here's where I'm at, right? And they get this guy who makes this thing on a slab of granite that we had to travel to go see because it was too
Yeah.
heavy to transport.
Yeah.
And no matter what, it didn't quite look quite enough like Gumby to pass the style book test, and we couldn't use it, and we were running out of time, so hence the Green Album.
Beautiful. What a story.
So yeah, man, cave art.
Cave art. So Shep, a poet said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
My inner dialogue is always in the way I grew up, speaking in Mount Vernonese English. Mount Vernon, New York, was the place of the dialect that you hear in front of you when, you know, it's a
Yeah.
combination of that and my grandmother's Mid-Atlantic accent, like she talked like an old-timey
Yeah.
movie. But that's it. That's the voice in my head. It's like, you know, it sounds like Denzel Washington or Michael Imperioli. It just does.
Nice. And two of my film heroes have this mantra that goes, ignore yourself. There is no self expression. And Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making more self expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
Well, we used to have a big aspect of the self involved in the process of music making. You know, the musician blowing into an instrument or playing a stringed or beating a drum or whatever, keyboard or whatever they're doing. And that there was a lot of room there for the I'm just a vessel aspect of music. It just flows through me. Keith Jarrett, it just flows through him. You know, McCoy Tyner, it just comes and go. It's where is that? It's that welcomed that aspect of whatever it is that's out there that moves us in a musical way. It's one of the, you know, the five muses, right? I mean, it's like, how many are there? Like, I think five. It's one of them, but music is one all by itself, right?
Yeah.
So there is that vesselship
Yeah.
thingy, but with the onset of samplers and bits and sound bites that have already been created for people to manipulate or or paste, cut and paste into something new, I think takes that element of I don't know how it's happening out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe finding a sample that serendipitous moment, there it is. But you're cutting and pasting, you're making a deliberate move here. You're using a computer to excise a sound bite and move it through a piece so that it appears here now. Where's something pushing your hand? Is something moving your hand to do all those editing moves? I don't know. You
Yeah.
know, it changed a little bit. And that's,
It's,
you know, that started happening a lot for me because the budget started to shrink and that was the only way I could do things,
yeah.
you know?
But can art making be egoless? Can music making be egoless?
Not if you think it's good.
Yeah.
I just created something. It really sucks. I'd like you to hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, has it no one to me ever?
Yeah.
Tell me if this sucks. I get
Yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm too honest with people sometimes, and I tell them what I think I hear,
Yeah.
and I tell them it's very subjective because even though I just had my ears cleaned out by a professional ear cleaner,
Yeah.
I don't know if you did.
Yeah.
So you might like something for a completely different reason than me. You
Yeah.
might love it, especially if they created it.
Yeah.
Makes if it makes the creator cry, there's probably no ego in it.
So well put. You know, it was 80% of people, can art making be egoless? They go, no. And then a year ago, a woman said, great art is egoless. And then another woman a month ago says, it has to be egoless. So that I love you bringing in it, and it doesn't make you cry, because I feel in my interviews, if I tear up or the interviewee tears up, it's a good interview. You know, it's an amazing thing bringing up this crying thing. But, you know, tell me, Shep, one major element of your Shepness, your creative spirit that's stayed the same in these years you've been doing it, and one major element that's changed.
I used to go through all the machinations, and they are machinations of recording things. I used to always lay tracks. Whether it was open reel tape decks or going into a studio at lots of money per hour or sitting at home with some digital audio workstation. I used to really take a lot of stock in that.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
Now I'll maybe I'll write a quick chart or a lead sheet on paper and just put it away, because the things that I've done are on so many varied mediums that have become obsolete over the years, that it's been a real drag trying to even just listen to a lot of these things again.
Yeah.
you know So that's one thing that's really changed about me. And it's kind of like the way we started, because we didn't have all that technology to instantly, we didn't have a Walkman. I used to have this thing that was like the size of a book that had stereo microphones on it. And I could
Yeah.
walk around and I could record stuff onto a cassette. That
Yeah.
was cool. That was micro, man. That was high
Yeah.
tech. But before that, we didn't have any of that. We were pencil and paper people. And that's what we had
Still
to, we had to
am.
learn how to use that.
Yeah. Yeah. I still am paper and pencil, but yeah, it's like McLuhan learned from Winston Churchill. He said, "We shape our buildings, then they shape us." And Marshall changed it to, "We shape our tools, then they shape us." And you'll love this. Then Marshall did an album called The Medium is the Message. John Simon produced it. And in the background, you can hear a voice go, "We shape our tools, then they ape us." They imitate, they ape us. So it's a real fine progression. So fill in the blank, Shep. Anger can be a productive emotion when
Anger can be a productive emotion. And a safe way to channel that anger is through art.
yeah, that's it. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Depends on which two people. Are you talking about two people or generalizations?
Yeah, you put it to get into the context you want, but just generally, it's a hard question. I had to stop asking it, but it just in general, what's the most significant difference? I mean, you've been with your partner for how many years? I mean, let's just switch it. How do you explain your longevity
Well,
with your
I wrote her a song about it.
beautiful?
I did. It was something that I could not separate myself from.
Yeah,
And that was the thing. It was like we were young. We were 20 years old when we met, and we had other love interests, but I could not. And as Andrea tells it, I think she would say the same thing. We just stayed together all the time.
yeah,
And we didn't live near each other. It
yeah,
took some doing, but it was hard to be apart. It was hard to be apart. There was a point where Andrea went to Europe for a while, and I was working in New York, and she was there for a little more than 6 months, and it was quite. I'm just getting into private stuff now, but it enabled me to work.
yeah,
Because I was so deeply in love with somebody, I felt no need to like really have too much social life, and I could work less. But I think the differences between the two sexes are so dependent upon the individuals that I don't really think you can make a generalization. I think society puts constraints on both genders, but not genders, but both sexes.
Yeah.
You have to be this and you have to be that. But I think the best relationships between two people are not when something's yin and yang, but when they're both, swirling in the mystery, together. It's always a swirl,
Yeah. It's
I think
really
those.
well put. Beautiful. We got about 10 more minutes, Shep. This has really been fun. Here's 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a couple words. First one, who started it all?
You did.
Are we going to make it?
I'll ask my wife if it's okay.
Where do we put it?
where it doesn't hurt too much.
Who's cleaning it up?
The mess maker.
Is it serious?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Few more and we're out of here. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll? Over or under?
No question about it. Always over the top as a cascade. And Jerry Lewis agreed with me. The Jerry Lewis comedian, the tough as nails guy. He agreed with me. It was one of his pet. Could not stand that.
Yeah.
Could not stand that.
It's at Brad's house. The picture of the patent has it going over, but 90% of people say over, but the people who say under have their reasons.
What are they? Some of them.
Oh, whatever, the cat or, various things.
Oh, right. The cat.
If you were walking down the street and you met yourself as a 12-year-old today, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
There's this person out there that you should probably find even sooner.
Ah, Shep, how do you find peace of mind?
Meditation, smoking a little weed, and playing my guitar, and knowing that my kids and family are okay. Just knowing everybody.
Can't go wrong with that, dude. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
That was Shemp.
They want to scent the glue of the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
There are no bindings, man. Who are you kidding?
Oh, that's a good comeback. Okay. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Oh, God. What folly. I would like to be a perfectly accurate copy of me who is now deceased in chopped liver that people can move around the table and partake of. Little, pieces of like crackers around the table or something.
You mean we're going to eat? The guy from the Weavers, he said, I want you to, put my body in ashes and then feed it to the compost pile.
Willie Nelson wants you to roll them up and smoke them.
Does he? All right.
I mean, I mean, with a statue of me, I always think of that Woody Allen bit where they had a replica of the deceased in chopped liver. It always struck me as being very funny.
That is a good answer. I love that. Okay. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good that I never had. and I never want. Isn't it funny how I can't think of something good that I never had?
That's
I mean,
it's a complex question in a lot of ways. People struggle with it, but I can tell you the three answers I get the most. But if you want
wait,
to,
wait, give me a quick second here.
oh no, no rush, no
Oh
rush.
yeah, something good.
It's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
Yeah, okay. I guess it's good. It's a one of these big, you know, Tony Stark houses.
Yeah,
And I guess it's really good to have something like that. And it must be a lot of fun. But I don't like living in big spaces.
yeah,
I'm a small place guy. I grew up in apartments.
yep,
Was raised in apartments. Uh, when I moved to a house, it was a very modest house.
yeah,
And I currently live in a very modest home
yeah,
in here in Venice, of course. And I would go nuts at night. How could I could not sleep at night in a big house,
yeah,
wondering who's down there while I'm
yeah,
trying to sleep. And I'm sure a lot of people who live in those big houses have that problem.
yep. Well, the three answers I get the most are fame, money, and heroin.
Heroin's not that good. I mean,
Okay.
fame is not that good. I know
Yeah.
people who are famous who can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know because this is all again how all words are metaphorical and we're all trying to agree on what they mean. Like, so if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I figure I must have done something wrong. Jeez.
That is, you got to meet the guy. I'm sorry you didn't meet him. Al, he was a Altacock who sat on the Venice boardwalk, and he taught me that question. Anyways, three more and we're out of here. Or no, a couple more and we're out of here. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
That inspires me is the cultural shift that is underway right now, I think, is the ability for people to deal with natural forces of nature.
Yeah.
Um, we're going to have a lot more of it in the future. And I think the culture shift is going to be how to survive it,
Yeah.
not how to stop it, because
Yeah.
it ain't going to happen, but
Yeah.
how to survive, how to keep going. And I have faith that we'll figure it out because there must be ways for us to figure this out. We can't just let this do us in. That, saw this. I know you only have a few minutes, but this incredible documentary on infinity that's on
Yeah.
Netflix now called A Trip to Infinity. And I told
Cool.
you I was reading that book called The Observer by Robert Lanza, who is a theoretical physicist and talking about things like biocentrism and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that can make one think like, it doesn't matter what I do. It's just something's always going to be here and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the immortality, if you will, of the self.
Yeah.
Not the Shep self or the Jerry self, but this thing, this consciousness that has no name.
Yep.
It just has a perspective. I got my perspective and you got yours, and but together it's a collective that creates our realities.
Yeah.
So anything, like Wednesday was Anything Can Happen Day on the Mickey Mouse Club, and it's Wednesday today.
It's good.
And I believe in anything can happen.
That's
I
good.
believe in I believe that.
That is actually a question I forgot to ask you. Is Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately? You just answered it without me asking the question.
Oh, I'm telling you, my brain is spinning. My mind is spinning this infinity box with an apple in it. You ever
Yeah.
heard about that? Mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Like that apple, you have
Yeah.
this box
Yeah.
that the thing inside the box will never get out,
Yeah.
and nothing will ever get in. It's just whatever you put in there. So you put an apple in it, and it goes through eternity, which is a very long time.
Yeah.
And through that eternity, it goes through every possible permutation of what it can be. And at some point, even for a flicker, it'll be an apple again.
Yeah.
I mean, this is mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
That the permanence of reality will go. It's just mind-blowing stuff. So I have nothing but hope.
Yeah.
However, I'm very, very, very disappointed by the way people are ethically challenged.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Well, Shep, what you just said also reminds me of the American Indians, indigenous. They don't have the term firefighting, they have the term fire management. So it's working with this simultaneity, this infinity. In fact, Sun Ra said it the best: the impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done and the world didn't change. So
Sun Ra, huh?
Sun Ra, what a
man.
jazz shaman. And in his band leader, Marshall Allen, is 99 and he's still leading the Sun Ra Orchestra.
Wow.
Okay, so what's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Oh, the one that remains unresolved for me. It's the one that had remained unresolved for me is like what is this all about, Alfie?
Yeah.
And lately, just lately, a series of events have happened, and things have been presented to me, that have taken me. Some might say it's down a rabbit hole or a wormhole, but it presented itself. I did not seek out this information, yet it's out there and it's accessible by anybody.
Yeah.
And it is totally comforting to think about the concept of infinity.
Yeah.
Is to me very settling. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
The part that gets me is that there's like a finite possible number of permutations, okay, because there's finite amount of energy in the universe. So eventually it has to repeat itself, and it might be very far away because it's very far away, but there might be this happening somewhere else right now, this exact same thing.
It's like the snake eating its tail or a Mobius
Exactly.
strip.
And then and that's just the first layer of the onion, so to speak, because then there's another one way out there again.
Yeah.
And another one way out. So there might be an infinite number of, Jerry Fialka podcasts coming. They just, oh my God, so many listeners, so many followers.
No, it's like when Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart were both at the ends of their physical lives. They were watching a PBS documentary on the Big Bang. And Frank said, what came before the Big Bang? And Don said, the big.
Two great people who should have been friends and were. Excellent, right? you know, one Zappa thing that has always hung with me when I had the extreme pleasure. And Jerry, one day I want to hear all about your years of
Yeah.
running around that place, man. That
Yeah.
must have been intense. But
Yeah.
just the short few times I had been there,
Yeah.
I had gotten the St. Alfonso's pancake breakfast performance. Frank would, at any hour of the day, would get a craving for pancakes when he was not doing well. And Dweezil corroborated this whole thing for me. And you would hear over the sound system the intro, xylophone,
Yeah.
of St. Alfonso's pancake breakfast when he was in the kitchen and pancakes were ready.
Oh, isn't that cool? I didn't know that one. That's as good as this one. The one time I was in Frank's bedroom, next to his bed was a VHS copy of Amos and Andy.
Kingfish.
Have you ever heard Thingfish?
Yes. Yes.
There's two
That's
songs
based on Kingfish. That's great.
Yeah, there's two songs on Thingfish, White Boy Trouble, and we should do a duet of White Boy Troubles on the boardwalk, Shep.
Excellent.
It's the coolest song. It's Frank quoting Ray Charles, and it's like a 1-minute song. And then Brown Moses. Those two songs on Thingfish, look them up because they're
okay. I'll practice them now.
Yeah, and then a couple more, and we're out of here because this is amazing. You anticipated what's it all about. Usually, I say, here's Thornton Wilder, 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. So you've laid your cards on the table for over 3 hours. You've already answered this many times, but what's it really all about? And then you just said, I'll tell you what it's really all about. You answered the question before. That's called effects precede causes. You answered the question before I asked it. So I'll ask you the other question is, how has this Shepness shaped your behavior? How has music, family shaped your behavior?
Well, the Shepness is probably the most important factor because when you name a kid Shep, that you know, or Shepherd,
yeah,
you know, that kid better like figure something out fast because people are going to ask you a lot of things about that. Where'd that come from? How'd you get that? But the Shepness is like, you know, the ability to like, I mean, you know, I'm good at Jeopardy.
Yeah.
We call Shepardy.
Yeah.
When I flip out, we call it a Shepisode. You know,
a Shepisode. That's good.
I mean, this guy, Josh Vitek, makes these
Sheptone.
Pickups for your guitar. They're excellent, by the way.
Sheptone. That's good.
Yeah. And they're out there. I met Shep Gordon one night.
Nice.
You know, Sheps are a special club. So the Shepness.
Yeah.
You know, I met Shepard Ferry a couple of weeks ago at
nice.
Something we were all at. I mean, it's a name that it started a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
So that got me going.
What gives you the most optimism?
The people in Venice, to be honest with you.
Oh, I love that answer. You know, the answer I get the most is youth. But, you know, that's what we're all about is it can be old people and young people in Venice. It's everybody.
Yeah, man. It's everybody. Yeah. I love the vibe here. You know, for years Andrea and I talked about where will we retire to? And I can't think of any place better than here where it's, you know, where there's still a lot of love and there's still a little bit of live and let live.
Yeah.
And it's good enough for me, man. And it's, you know,
well, the
20 degrees cooler than every place else.
I
mean that in every way.
No, we are so lucky. I mean, I always know when I get to heaven it's going to be the Venice Boardwalk, and I'm going to be walking there, and you're going to be on the boardwalk and say, "Hey, Shep, what's up, dude?" You actually still go on the boardwalk. That's what I like, because there's so many. But it is, I think heaven can't be better than Venice.
I agree with you. In fact, I often catch myself. I'm sitting like on my front porch, and it's all grown in. It's, we're here almost 40 years, and it's all overgrown, and you can't really see when you sit in a certain spot. You can't see anything but the sky. And if you walk around, you see plenty of other things. But if you sit still and you hold yourself still for a minute, I always say to myself, I go, if there's a heaven, it really can't be better than this.
Better than this, yeah.
It really, I mean, there's no built-in swimming pool. There's no, millions of dollars in the bank. But my kids are around.
Yeah.
My wife is upstairs. She loves me. My dog loves me. It's right here. I've got a few guitars nearby, and I can walk a few blocks and run into 15 different people that I know. It's great. It's really great.
Yeah, it's funny, Shep, because the first question in our part 1 was, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. In the last question, what gives you the most optimism, is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it's Shep. I love you, Shep. Thank you so much. It's been truly enlightening. And, let's get out there and we could come up with a good name, but one of my favorite bands on the boardwalk, we were called Puke and Liar. And all we played was 2 songs, Smoke on the Water and Earache My Eye. So we should go out there and be a duo, and I'll play duck call and kazoo, and you can play uke or guitar. No electricity, no plugging in, and we gotta start a boardwalk act.
And Peter can chase us out of his spot.
I can't wait.
All right, my brother. Jerry, you're a treasure. I love you, man.
I love you, Shep. That was so fun. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I know this will never end, and we'll keep talking forever and ever.
Always, my brother. I love you, man.
Love you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.